Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, and continuing on with Gene Hackman Movie Week in memory / in tribute of the late legendary Gene Hackman. Yes, so the next film that I'll be reviewing that features / stars Gene Hackman, well, yes, you read the title, and as was teased in the last review video, 1995, yeah, because that was a big year for Gene Hackman. The first movie that he did that year, which being The Quick and the Dead, and a couple months after that film came out, we would see him in this film from Disney under the defunct Hollywood Pictures. Yes, where he co-stars alongside with another great actor, Denzel Washington. Yes, where both of them would be in this movie, where they would be in a submarine for 65 days, and this having to do with going after, the Russians and stuff like that, and this is after the Cold War, and if you know this, because, yeah, this being, it's, loosely based on a real incident during the Kobane Missile Crisis, yeah. So that's right, guys. From 1995, and not to mention that, yeah, this film, celebrating its anniversary, Crimson Tide. Yes, Crimson Tide. Man, I gotta say, Crimson Tide, well, it was good. Yeah, it did not disappoint me. Yeah, I'm glad to have finally have seen this movie, and I, of course, was, first things I have to say about it, of course, I was familiar with this movie even before I saw this. I recall that each of my parents, I think, yeah, especially my mom, had brought up the movie and such. And, I guess, when talking about, say, Gene Hackman or Denzel Washington, yeah. Yeah, because this movie and what this film had to offer, and, yeah, because, it's amazing just how, almost the entirety of this movie taking place in a submarine for 65 days. The mission that these group of Navy officers, everybody on this submarine, that they are, assigned to do and such. And when, two of the big leaders of the submarine, from the executive officer and the captain, they butt heads, and both of them have different opinions and, feelings towards what they're dealing with and such. How the captain, does this his way, and how the executive officer does it his way and such. So, yeah. But yeah, again, watching this movie, it was no disappointment for me, and, yeah, I enjoyed it from beginning to end. It's kind of, there's not that much action to it, but it does feel like one, I mean, there's nothing really intense, but it kind of, I mean, how this movie does its action and such, because, yeah, again, the entirety of this movie taking place on one submarine, and yeah, and during the 65 days, them being isolated in this submarine, just, yeah, and how slowly but surely things would get out of hand on the submarine. At a certain point, mutiny would happen, mutiny, yeah, that's the correct way of saying it, but just, yeah. And with the late Tony Scott's direction for this movie, Tony Scott, the brother of Ridley Scott, just, yeah, everything about Crimson Tide is really good. Not a disappointment for me. I enjoyed it from beginning to end with a great story, great cast, the suspense, and when things at a certain point get out of hand, each of them, kind of turn against each other one by one, and, mutiny happens at a certain point. But in the end, it all calms down and everything is patched up and so on. But, yeah. But again, it's a really good film, Crimson Tide. Definitely recommend it. Yeah. Okay, so, as always, for me, read the description / the story. After the Cold War, a breakaway Russian republic with nuclear warheads becomes a possible worldwide threat. U.S. submarine captain Frank Ramsey signs on a green but highly recommended Lieutenant Commander Ron Hunter to the U.S. Alabama, the name of the submarine, which may be the only ship able to stop a possible Armageddon. When Ramsey insists that the Alabama must act aggressively, Hunter, fearing they will start rather than stop a disaster, leads a potential mutiny to stop him. Okay, so, now with that out of the way, getting into the film itself, because again, what this is loosely based off of, and as I explained, but also, it's interesting how this movie opens because, we get an opening text, and we get another text at the end of the film, opening and closing text and such. For the opening text, the three most powerful men in the world, the President of the United States, the President of the Russian Republic, and the captain of a U.S. nuclear missile submarine. Yeah. So, that's true. That's a fact for you. And a CNN reporter, reporting about, Russia and, war happening and stuff like that. And it's crazy, with what goes on in this movie at the beginning. And we get the introduction of two of our main characters. Well, one of them being one of the main characters, but yeah. Hunter, being played by good old Denzel Washington, and a colleague and friend of his in the Navy. They served twice in the Navy, and that being, there he is. Wepps, that's his name, Wepps, being played by Viggo Mortensen, a.k.a. What's-him-face from, Lord of the Rings. Yep, and more than that, but yeah, I think for a lot of us, we would know him best being in the Lord of the Rings films as Aragorn. Yeah, Aragorn. Sorry, because I almost forgot his character's name, but yeah, anyways. Yeah, and before he did Lord of the Rings, well, he did this movie. So, anyways, the introduction of our main character as well, because there's a birthday party going on for Hunter's daughter. A magician is there. And at one point, Hunter and Wepps, they happen to notice something on live TV on the news, because of Russia and stuff like that. Things getting out of hand and just, even, they were thinking at first that maybe it's not as bad as it looks, but, yeah, it is. And, we see Hunter getting assigned to serve as the executive officer of the Alabama submarine. Yeah, and thus we get the introduction of the other main character of this film, co-starring alongside with Denzel Washington, the late Gene Hackman playing Captain Frank Ramsey. Yes. So, again, Hunter being assigned for the Alabama, and a lot of times in this movie, it's brought up between Hunter and Ramsey about horses and noble steeds and stuff like that. And also, Captain Ramsey, he has a dog, which being a Jack Russell Terrier. Yeah, that's right. I believe the dog's name is Bear. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. And, who would someone in the Navy not have, a dog with them or something like that? Yeah. But anyways, so again, Hunter being assigned, and, everything seems to go pretty well between Hunter and Ramsey. And also, one of the other characters that we get is Chief of the Boat, which the Chief of the Boat being Cobb. I think that's the character's name. Again, you know me sometimes how I pronounce names. Played by George Dzundza, if I'm pronouncing his last name right as well. Again, but anyways. And yeah, because those that are assigned to the submarine, departing, some of them saying goodbye to their families, and even Hunter. Hunter saying goodbye to his wife and children, and even their dog. Their family dog tagged along as well to in the car ride. And yeah, Hunter's wife, Julia Hunter, being played by Vanessa Bell Calloway, and Luke, Hunter's son, being played by Brendan Jefferson, and Robin being played by Ashley Calloway. Oh, well, I presume, yeah, she's the daughter of Vanessa Bell, because they share the last name. Anyways, yeah, again, Hunter's daughter, Robin, so yeah, who had just, celebrated her birthday, but yeah. It's a very emotional, sweet goodbye. Even Hunter telling his wife, I'll see you in my dreams and stuff like that. Yeah, because when they go to sleep, they'll see each other in their dreams. It's very sweet. And yeah, so Hunter arriving and this send-off speech that Ramsey gives to all of those Navy troops that will be serving on the submarine for this 65-day journey. And, yeah, it's pretty good, and a bit of funny things that Ramsey says to them, mentioning of them serving in the Air Force or something like that. It was kind of funny, and because they laughed. And, yeah, once their journey begins, on day one, well, the submarine is up on the surface, and, for one last time, for now, getting some good fresh air, even Ramsey offering Hunter a cigar. Just, yeah. So, yeah, getting one last good, breath of fresh air for now until the 65-day journey is over. Yeah, because for the 65 days, they will be isolated in the submarine underwater. Could you survive that long for 65 days? I'd like to know. Just, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I could, but that depends, right? So, yeah, anyways. So, yeah. So, once their time up on the surface is over, they get that one last bit of good fresh air, smoking cigars. They, the submarine now dives, and great music and score right there, and with a bit of a choir. And yeah, the composer for Crimson Tide being good old Hans Zimmer. Yeah, Hans Zimmer's score music for Crimson Tide, really good. A little bit of the keys of music in Crimson Tide was almost reminding me and giving me a little bit, and I say a little bit, of Pirates of the Caribbean vibes, don't you think? Not to mention that Jerry Bruckheimer, he was one of the producers of this movie. Both him and his late co-producing partner, Don Simpson. And back then, when Jerry Bruckheimer Films was called Jerry Bruckheimer / Don Simpson Films and such, yeah. But after Don Simpson's passing, that's when it was just called Jerry Bruckheimer Films. So, yeah. But yeah, so nice to see, because Jerry Bruckheimer and Hans Zimmer, this was one of their early works, and before, well, say, most notably Pirates of the Caribbean. So, yeah. So again, yeah, Hans Zimmer's score for Crimson Tide, really good. How can you not enjoy music and such, from a great composer like Hans Zimmer? Seriously. Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, after the submarine has submerged down underwater, thus their journey begins, and, from, like, say, day 2 to day 6, yeah. And as the days go by, like I said earlier, because slowly but surely, things would start to get out of hand with those on the submarine, and most notably between Hunter and Ramsey. And it's just begun, because, yeah, it doesn't take them that long to know and realize that, yeah, their opinions are very different with what they're dealing with and such, with war and the enemy and so on. How Hunter views it, and how Ramsey views it. Yeah. Moments that happen, and to speed things up, because, yeah, well, because, I mean, again, things go pretty well on the submarine at first, and there are a few times where we would see Hunter do some exercise, like he would jog, he would even do some boxing, and actually, fun fact, Denzel Washington actually did some boxing before he started work on this movie. And it was his idea to incorporate that in Crimson Tide, the character of Hunter doing some boxing and such. Nice to see. And some of the other cast of characters that we get in this, like there's, I already mentioned Cobb and Webbs. There's also Lieutenant Bobby Dowdery, if I'm even pronouncing that last name right, being played by the late legendary good old James Gandolfini. Yep. And there's also Lieutenant Westergaard, I think I am saying that right, being played by Rocky Carroll, who, especially as of now, would be best known for being one of the main cast members of NCIS. Yeah, but of course he's done more than that, so you would know him from something else besides NCIS, most notably. There's also Ood Mahoney, being played by Jamie Gomez, and Hunsicker being, I think I am pronouncing that right, being played by Michael Milhone. I'm saying that right. And T.S.O. Billy Linketter, being played by Scott Burkholder. And there's also Danny Revetti, being played by Danny Nusi. I think, that's about right. And Russell Vossler, being played by Lilo Bransato. And Benefield, being played by Eric Scotter. Again, if I'm pronouncing some of these, again, you know me sometimes, bear with me. And Lieutenant Paul Hellerman, being played by Ricky Schroeder. And young Steven Zahn. I actually didn't quite realize that he was in this movie. Steve Zahn, playing William Barnes. William Barnes doesn't have that much of a big role in this movie, but still, and Lawson, being played by Marcello Thedford. Being played by Marcel Thedford. He plays Lawson. So those are all, like, the big ones that we know of. Some of them not having big roles, but some of them do. But, and their personalities and the jobs and positions that they have on the submarine. Like, Lieutenant Peter Wepps, that's his full name. His position is, the weapons room and such. And Officer Russell, his position, like, monitoring what's out in the ocean, the con and such, tracking and such, that whole thing. And Cobb, he's the chief of the boat and such. And as for, Bobby, well, he's lieutenant. And, also, the others being just lieutenants and stuff like that, but so one thing that happens, like, there's a moment where there's a fire in the kitchen, and apparently another moment where they were going to do, like, target practice or something like that, and the captain ordered a drill and such. Hunter didn't like that at first, and even Captain Frank Ramsey asked him, like, if, he felt that was wrong of him ordering that drill and stuff like that. Hunter, at one point, and because the fire in the kitchen happened, he tried helping putting it out and so on. And there's even a moment where someone, an officer and such, goes into cardiac arrest, and sadly he doesn't make it. And but also on the side of funny moments in this film, because and before, like, the kitchen fire happened, and what else would happen, as I just mentioned, like, practice of a missile, the drill that the captain did. Well, because some of the Navy officers, like, just goofing around, and one of them, like, pretending to sing and using a flashlight as a microphone, and one staring at a fish tank and just, It's nice to see how this movie, it does funny moments and such, but at the same time, it's a serious matter with what goes on in this movie, so, but anyways, and still, to speed things up, because, still, slowly but surely, just how things would, just get out of hand, and especially the intention and relationship between Hunter and Frank Ramsey, the captain of the submarine. Just, not to mention, there's a moment where, They were gonna be they were receiving at one point a EAM message, short for emergency action message. Didn't quite make it through, and that's when after that, and because one Russian submarine is close by, Akulo, if I'm pronouncing that right. Yeah, just it's amazing just how where this movie goes, and just how some of the characters feels towards one another, especially how they feel towards Hunter. It's just amazing. But yeah, the Akula. The Akula. That's the name of it. That's the name of the Russian submarine. And the Akula. Yeah. And, because moments where the missiles, torpedoes would launch, like, rather if it be, say, from the Alabama or the Akula, the Russian submarines and such, and most of the time it would be a close call, I should say, for the Alabama submarine. And at times, them having problems with the submarine, and even at one point there was a sacrifice that happened, and just, and like I said, when Ramsey and Hunter butt heads one another, especially at a certain point when, Hunter wants to have the message, the EAM message be fully transmitted and such, what it says, but for the captain, his attitude just wanting to launch the missiles, and I think, and I know I probably was, when I was watching the movie, you seem to really, root for Hunter, and you're not really sure on the captain. I mean, they're just following orders. That's pretty much what they're doing. And even for Hunter, he's going by the book. Yeah. And even when, say, he succeeds at first, taking command of the submarine and placing the captain in his quarters, keeping him there and such. Some of the crew, well, even though that most of them, they're on Hunter's side, some of them just, not too fond with this. And that especially goes for, say, some of the lieutenants. Bobby and Derek, just, because they're not satisfied, and them, rooting for their captain and such, And as for Cope, because, he's very mixed on this. He does help out Hunter, but a part of him, thinks that Hunter's crazy, and, maybe they should listen to Ramsey's orders and such, But at least, some of them, say, Peter and Russell and Danny, they're most notably on, Hunter's side. But for Peter Wepps, at a certain point, the position that he's in, and when, say, Bobby, Derek, and the others, they turn to him, he's in a tough spot, and he ultimately, at one point, helps them out, and to stop Hunter. I mean, what else can he really do? Especially, again, the position he's in where he's in the weapons room. That's his job and position on the submarine. And to mention more on some of the characters, like say, Officer Danny. There was one moment, and it happened, I think, in the cafeteria, kitchen and such, where he got into a tussle with someone. Hunter questioned him on what that was all about. Apparently, there was a disagreement on who is the true Silver Surfer from the Marvel Comics, Jack Kirby's or another version of Silver Surfer, and Hunter, setting Danny straight, but sharing his opinion that Jack Kirby's Silver Surfer is the true Silver Surfer. And by the way, another fun fact, Quentin Tarantino actually, uncreditedly, helped out writing some more dialogue and such in the movie, and throwing in some pop culture references. And I assume, as I just mentioned with Silver Surfer, that being one of them. But yeah, nice to see, because Quentin Tarantino did pretty good helping out, polishing and, adding in more touches, I should say, to the script. Yeah. Not to mention, because, quite a bit of a foul mouth that these characters would have. Like, most of the time, them just saying the F-bomb, but yeah, anyways. So, and even Officer Russell, because there was a moment for him where he got wounded, like, he had to get, like, bandages and stitches, like, right here, like, right up to his eye, like, right here. At least he didn't lose the eye, but yeah. And nice to see that, most notably, Russell and Danny, them two especially, the two of them especially, helping out and really being on Hunter's side, when at a certain point, yeah, because when things get out of hand, and even after Captain Frank Ramsey is, put in his quarters, being held there. And like I said, from Lieutenant Bobby to Lieutenant Derek, them turning to Peter to get him to help them out and such, and because, of what's going on with Hunter. But Peter knows Hunter very well, and with what he explains to them, but there's nothing that Peter could do then, and yeah, unfortunately, he gives in and helps out the others and to get the captain out of his quarters. Even, like, those two security guards that were guarding Ramsey in his quarters, they're thrown in his room, and Ramsey's Jack Russell Terrier just, terrifying them, like almost going to bite them and such. Jeez Louise. Yeah. Also, can't forget to mention, because we see him at the start of this movie, Vladimir Radchenko, if I'm even pronouncing that right, because he, being, obviously, I assume, being a higher up in Russia, and, Vladimir was played by, I would assume, is he uncredited, or... No, he's not uncredited, yeah. Being played by Daniel von Bargen. I think, I'm pronouncing the last name right. And to name some of the other characters, there's... Oh, yeah, because the CNN anchorman being played by Warren Onley. Lieutenant Commodore Nelson being played by Rad Daly. Phone Talker, that's how he's credited. Phone Talker being played by Sean O'Brien. Sailor with Oba being played by Victor Tongonde, however that last name's pronounced. Again, you know me sometimes. Seaman Davis being played by Armand Watson. Phone Talker 2 being played by Brent Goldberg. It's funny how some characters would be credited and called, yeah. And, I didn't realize he was in this too. Petty Officer Heilhair, if I'm pronouncing that right too, being played by young Scott Grimes, who would go on to be best known for being the voice of Steve Smith in Captain America, and, Gordon from The Orville, yeah. But he's done more than those two, of course, but yeah, anyways. There's also Firing Key Runner being played by Dale Andre Lee Everett, Seaman, I didn't. Seaman Gratman being played by Ryan Phillippe. Alright, continuing with the movie, because, Hunter getting position and control of the submarine, things seem to go pretty well at first, but again, when some of the lieutenants, and when they get, Weps involved in such, they drag him in this, because them breaking out and getting the captain out, and not to mention that, Hunter has, missile key and such, with activating the missiles and such. But also, at one point, Hunter, he did give another key to one of the members of the submarine that is on his side, most notably, and that being, I think, Vosselier. In fact, there's a moment between Vosselier and Hunter where Hunter best describes to Vossler that he's got to be Scotty. He's got to be the engineer while he plays the part of Captain Kirk. Yeah. And it's up to Vossler to, like, really, like, at one point try to, receive the EAM message. Yeah, fully and such. Have it be on paper and stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah, so, again, when at one point Ramsey is free from his quarters and, him confronting Hunter and, telling him to give him the key and such, even punching him in the face, good lord. I mean, Hunter, he takes this and calmly, how he handles this very calmly and such, yeah. And he's refusing to give Ramsey the key and such. However, thanks to, Vossler, he thinks he's this time able to, get the incoming emergency action message. But even before that, because, there was a moment where, Ramsey was, interrogating, Webs, having, at one point, putting a gun behind his head, telling him to, activate, and by launching the missiles and such, only Webs knows the codes and stuff like that. And Webs, he's refusing to give in, even when, Ramsey just realizes that he can't kill Webs because only he knows the combination, stuff like that. Yeah, the combination. And so he points the gun to someone else who doesn't know the combination. Is it me, or the captain was kind of taking it a little too far? Don't you think? It didn't seem right with what he was doing, and just randomly turning the gun to someone else, and, well, who doesn't know the combination, but, yeah. But, ultimately, thankfully, no one gets shot, thankfully. And even when, Ramsey and the others, they make their way up to the con, the main bridge and such, and again, Hunter refusing to give in the key, the specific key, and when Vossler, again, he then is able to try to receive the entirety of the emergency action message. And, Ramsey, well, nice of him at least, but yeah, giving him 3 minutes to try and get it, and yeah. And them just sitting there waiting, and Ramsey smoking a cigar, and another mentioning of of the horses, which, yeah, like I said, at times in this movie, a good chunk of times, Ramsey and Hunter would talk about, stallions and so on. Yeah, they're referring to the Lipizzaner stallions, if I'm pronouncing that right specifically. Yeah, again, you know me sometimes. And they're horses. They're a breed of horses. They are a European breed that are famous for their classical dressage, if I'm pronouncing that right, skills. They are the oldest pure bred horse in Europe. And, the conversation that they have a little bit about those breed of horses, and even Hunter saying that they are born brown or black, but gradually turn white over time. Yeah. And again, because, where Ramsey thinks where they're from, but Hunter corrects them, where they come from specifically. Just and it's mentioned at the very end of the movie, but until I get there. So yeah. So 3 minutes passing, and I think, from up to 2 minutes. Because he's trying his best. He's trying his best with the the EAM. Again, that being Russell. That's his first name. But thankfully, and even when it does get static a bit, finally, he manages to get it fully, and it's actually positive. It's something positive on the piece of paper, the EAM. And it takes a moment, but that's when Ramsey, he orders for the missiles to be called off. This time, they're not going, it's official. They're not going to launch the missiles because, thankfully, Hunter was right. And this was as it was shown in the trailer and being the movie, because I just love that, because, if you're wrong, God help us, and the mentioning if there would be a World War III, because what they say, just it's so good. Yeah, just great chemistry between Denzel Washington and Gene Hackman in this movie, right? Just, yeah. But yeah, thankfully, Hunter was right and the captain was wrong, and yeah, everything's all good now. And even we see the CNN anchorman once again, and to put it this, because the Russians, they surrendered, and now everything's all good and so on. And the epilogue to this movie, well, we see Hunter and Ramsey at the main headquarters of the Navy. And yeah, those, like, the guys at the front desk and such, what they say to each Hunter and Ramsey, that they caused a mess, but also they were both right and wrong. And yeah, and also the request from Ramsey on retirement. And as for Hunter, well, good for him, because him being assigned and having his own command for another different submarine, I assume. But yeah, in the end, everything's all patched up, and especially for Hunter and Ramsey. And it was cute where, yeah, because while they were inside the building, someone was watching over and, walking Ramsey's Jack Russell Terrier, walking around the grass, even, probably having to take a leak. Which, by the way, because you wonder how, at any point on the submarine and during those 65 days, Ramsey's Jack Russell Terrier would have to go to the bathroom. And we see at one point that, yeah, he does so. Just, yeah. Anyways, but yeah, again, things are patched up between Hunter and Ramsey, and, Hunter thanking Ramsey, but, what Ramsey says in return, because another mentioning of those breed of horses, and Hunter was right, and yeah, it was pretty funny. And again, it's great to see that, yeah, things got patched up, and, well, because, for them on the submarine, they were just following orders, and little did Ramsey know that, actually, Hunter was right. And yeah, but how was he supposed to know at all until, yeah, they got the full EAM, and just, yeah, so, and great to see how everything turned out great in the end. Yeah, so great ending to this movie for our two main characters and what they would do next. But also, yeah, the ending text of this, well, as it says, as of January 1996, primary authority and ability to fire nuclear missiles will no longer, and commanders, yeah, but overall, yeah, something positive, and yeah, what would happen in the aftermath and such, and again, because, as of January 1996, yeah, but, yeah, again, just a great way to end off the film right there, and just from beginning to end, what this movie was doing. It was amazing. Crimson Tide is a really good movie that centers on a submarine and what goes on in this movie, where, we have these group of characters isolated in a submarine, and I'd say it would be up there like say right next to Hunt for Red October, right? Where, a movie centering on a batch of characters and them being in a submarine and, what goes on in that movie. You get my point. Just, yeah, I'd say, yeah, it's Crimson Tide is right there next to Hunt for Red October being a really good movie where one of the main things, has to do with a submarine. But yeah, Crimson Tide, from beginning to end, really good. The story, the cast of characters, great acting, great talented people in this from, yeah, Denzel Washington, the late Gene Hackman, Viggo Mortensen, the late James Gandolfini, Rocky Carroll, James Gomez, Scott Burkholder, and everyone else that was a part of this film. Hans Zimmer's music and score, good of course. Some action in this. Again, yeah, there is some action, but how it's done in this film, the suspense, the funny and emotional moments. Yeah, there, some emotional moments, and yeah, because, a few deaths here and there, and, one of them being an ultimate sacrifice when one part of the submarine is flooding with water, and, yeah, poor Cobb, because, Hunter ordered him to close the doors where, yeah, one part of the submarine was flooding, and unfortunately, yeah, a couple of sacrifices, a few crew members that didn't make it out of theirs, yeah. And how intense this movie gets at a certain point, mutiny happening, but at the same time, when, they get the full EM, yeah, it all clears up and everything's patched up and such, and what would happen next with our two main characters, Hunter and Ramsey, just, yeah. And with the late Tony Scott's direction for this movie, just everything about Crimson Tide was really good. A really good movie that has to do with a submarine and what goes on, while these crew members, the executive officer and the captain, and the executive officer, like, being short for XO, yeah. Yeah, again, I almost said Hunt for Red October, sorry. Wrong movie with a submarine. Crimson Tide, it's really good. And I'm giving Crimson Tide, well, why not? And this sounds about right, yeah. Well, I mean, of course, yeah. I'm giving it 8 out of 10 stars. Yes, 8 out of 10 stars for Crimson Tide. And what about you guys? What did you think of Crimson Tide itself? What was your first impression of this film? The first time you watched it, like on, VHS, DVD, digital, Blu-ray, just, yeah. Is this one of your favorite films that has to do with a submarine, that stars Denzel Washington, Gene Hackman? What were some of your favorite moments, and, moments where you were just like, oh my gosh, getting into the suspense and intensefulness, and yeah, because so much that happens, and at a certain point, and again, when mutiny happens, and, well, in the end, it's all patched up and cleared, just, yeah. Yeah, just overall, what do you think of Crimson Tide itself, and with what I've had to say, my review, and yeah, what did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And so, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of Crimson Tide. More review videos are on the way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I'll see you guys in the next video / review. And, well, continuing on with Gene Hackman Movie Week, stay tuned because the next film I'm going to be reviewing, well, we go from something serious and intenseful to something that's comedic. And to best describe it, well, this comedy film, which came out the same year as Crimson Tide, yeah, a few months later, yeah, well, Gene Hackman co-stars alongside with other great talents, Travolta, Russo, and DeVito, and it's directed by Sonnenfeld. Can you take a guess what it is? I'm sure some of you probably know what it is. Yeah. But yeah, again, stay tuned for that. Take care, and peace out. And happy anniversary to Crimson Tide.